Many anime characters suffered in their respective stories, but when asked which anime character suffered the most, two main answers come out: Guts and Subaru. Every other answer is wrong. I don't care about being rational and logic. I don't want to hear about other obscure light novels or manga. I truly don't care. For the sake of the narrative I'm trying to install here, the two characters that suffer the most are Guts from Berserk and Subaru from ReZero. But a question must be asked. Between those two, who suffered the most? I even asked that question on a community post, and usually no one looks at those. This place is as empty as Griffith's ass. Which means it's not that empty after all. But now all of a sudden, I got a gazillion vote, and people in the comment section were not happy. They were eating each other like a bunch of cannibalistic titans. That's when I realized that me and my friend are not the only one crazy enough to be heated about this debate. This topic is truly unlike any others. Talking about this summons the worst in all of us and divides us like American politics divides its population. And today I am putting an end to this evil. And I'm not talking about American politics when I say evil, I'm talking about the debate. Who suffered the most between Guts and Subaru? So before starting the debate, we need to lay the foundations of it. We need to make sure no detail is left behind. I have three concepts I'd like to discuss with you before we start talking about suffering. First thing is the character's early life, second one is the concept of death, and the third one will be the world, or more commonly said, the world our characters come from. Let's start off with the character's early life. If we only compare post-Isekai Subaru to Guts and we forget everything that happened before he got Isekai, then the debate becomes closer. But if we take into consideration Subaru's early life, my boy basically lived like me. Homie was just minding his own business, going on walks, going to school, hitting the gym, watching Adventure Time on his 70-inch plasma widescreen TV with Netflix, and eating cheap ramens. For this video, we'll forget about Subaru's past and only take into consideration the events that happened after he got isekai'd. Another thing we must talk about is the concept of death and its effect. This will be a minor light novel spoiler, by the way, so feel free to skip to this timestamp if you don't want to get spoiled, but truly it is a minor, but I mean a minor detail. At some point in the light novel, the character that has the power to steal abilities or steal memories stole Subaru's return by death, or Subaru's memories, or something like this. I don't know, I can't read. And this character got hit by the daily Subaru morning routine and got so traumatized by it that the sheer shock of witnessing death made her terrified of Subaru and made her lose her mind. This tells us that dying in ReZero is in fact a big deal. The cool thing about dying is that it only happens once, and then you are in a better place. Unless you live in the Berserk universe, then you are cocked no matter what. But Subaru doesn't die after he's killed, as a wise man once said, he just resets. Considering that this character totally lost it after using Subaru's power shows how mentally strong Subaru is and how much of a big deal it truly is to die. Another important point to take into consideration in this debate. And now, the last thing I'd like to mention is something I've never seen or heard anyone talk about. I'd like to compare both the worlds that Guts and Subaru respectively live in. Subaru's new world is not perfect. Some calamities like the White Whale, the troop of rabbits, and the witch cult roam the world freely. But overall, it is a nice world full of hope, and unless you are unlucky, the chances of you dying in the ReZero world are really low. In the Berserk universe, on the other hand, who even survives in the Berserk universe, honestly? The pre-Eclipse era was the best version of it, and it was still ass, with wars everywhere. But the post-Eclipse era, the odds of you dying as a regular villager in the Berserk universe are higher than the odds of me crashing my car in a tree after hearing KSI song the radio. Guts lives in a world where the divine forces that regulate it actively try to face him. Femto, his worst enemy, for instance, was created by the idea of evil, who's the equivalent of God. And all of the apostles and monsters that exist are also the result of this divinity's action. Guts is a normal human, born in a world that tries to him as hard as it can, while Subaru was isekai'd in a world that tries to constantly help him as hard as it can. Okay, we're done with the laying foundation thing, but I have a small warning before we start. For the sake of this debate, fuck the if routes. The majority of those stories are just over-exaggerated and unrealistic versions of ReZero that Teppei made for fun, and they are not representative of the real ReZero. ReZero fans be talking about those stories like they are the gospel. Like, homie, those stories are not canon. In one of those stories, Subaru literally has a harem and spends his day and becomes the king of Lugunica, but the ReZero fans seem to ignore this one because it doesn't fit their narrative. Motherfuckers will bring out the greed route like it's the second coming of Jesus Christ himself, but they'll forbid the name of the Lost route like it's Voldemort. Point is, those if stories are non-canon, silly stories made for fun, I am not considering them in this very serious and important debate. End of the story. Oh yes, also, you light level readers, I don't want to hear anything about how much Subaru will suffer in Arc 7 or 8. This is an anime-only friendly video. I know it's hard for you to keep it shut, but I appreciate the effort. In this debate, your opinion probably depends on the things you value as a person. The people that say Subaru suffered the most will bring up the fact that he saw his friends die gruesome death multiple times, and that he also himself died in more than gruesome ways on many occasions. The people that say that God suffered the most, on the other hand, will claim that even though Subaru suffered physically and mentally, everything that happens to him is reversible. Every time Subaru sees someone he loved die, he knows it's not definitive. He can always try to fix it. He can always try again. Unlike Guts, who has only one life. His life has been ass for well, ever. Since his life started, basically. Guts was born from his mom's hanging corpse, and has been used as a soldier for his entire childhood. After some time, he eventually found a group that he could consider friends, and a girl he loved. Just for all of those friends to either betray him or die in more than atrocious ways. And the love of his life to be, how do I not get demonetized here? Touched in no places by the man he respected the most. Not only does Guts has to live with the fact that he got disrespected and humiliated, he also has to live with the fact that all of his friends died and it's probably his fault. Those are the two major ways people approach this debate. It's kinda like quantity over quality. Subaru suffered the most in terms of quantity, but the quality of his suffering is not as pure as Guts' suffering. Now let's get to the interesting part and talk about pain, suffering, and man kissing. Subaru died around 25 times where we currently are in the anime as of November. This number is not scientifically proven, I simply made a quick Google search. I better not hear any of you correct me on this number. Fuck you. If we compare Guts to this anime-only Season 3 version of Subaru, I truly don't know who suffered the most here. Being eaten alive by rabbits, being frozen to death, being torn and dismembered, all of this truly sucks. But low-key, this is nothing Guts didn't go through before. If we count the sheer amount of time that Guts was left 90% dead in the manga, I'm pretty sure the number must be pretty close to 25 or maybe even higher. Guts also has to heal from his nearly fatal injuries and suffer through the whole recovery process, unlike Subaru who just dies and respawns healthy like he's playing a video game. And for those of you who had to recover from nearly fatal injuries, I'm pretty sure you can tell us that this type of pain is way more obnoxious to deal with than a pain that simply kills you. I mean, I never died before, and I'm probably sure that none of you watching this video died either, but you get the point. Anyway. Recovering from fatal injuries means being unable to sleep during countless nights because of the pain, suffering every second of the day for weeks, and knowing you'll have to go through this again is more than painful in Guts' case. And let's not forget about the Berserker armor here. That shit stops Guts from feeling pain, but when he takes off that shit, whoo! All the pain comes in at once, and it really doesn't seem fun from what I've been seeing here. I'm talking a lot about Guts here, but Subaru also suffered like a mother and he'll keep suffering, but at the very least, his pain ends fast. Well, sometimes. Some of Subaru's 25 deaths were also probably painless. In one of his deaths, he peacefully died in his sleep. In another one, he jumped off a cliff, which is pretty much an instant death. So saying that Subaru's 25 deaths were horrible would be a lie. So I really don't know who physically suffered the most here. I never got eaten alive by a rabbit, and I never owned a Berserker armor myself, so unfortunately I am not fit to judge here, but maybe that a Berserker armor owner can come to our help here and tell us about his experience, or someone who previously died being eaten by magical rabbits can tell us how it feels. Oh, you're telling me none of you motherfuckers own a Berserker armor, and none of you ever got eaten to death by rabbits? You people are lame. Enough talking about Berserker armor, being eaten alive by rabbit, and physical pain overall. Now let's talk about psychological pain. People will bring up Subaru's psychological pain and say that the sheer amount of time he saw all of his friends die make him a bigger martyr than Guts. And if experiencing death is traumatizing enough to turn someone into Casca, then Subaru must be suffering a lot in secret, and all of it is valid, but I gotta agree with the Guts stand on this one. Knowing that your homies are dead for good is way more painful than seeing theoretical scenario that in the end never happened. Guts also didn't only lose his friends, he lost his pride, he was humiliated, he was power-less against them too, he was nothing but an ant. If that's not raw mental pain, I don't know what is. Let's also not forget the fact that Guts is getting chased 24/7 by evil forces that seek to kill him. He cannot sleep and causes innocent people's deaths on a daily basis. My man is so stressed out, he's slowly turning into Kaneki, mother Kaneki. All of this while Subaru just enjoys her whole ass year off. Yes, if you didn't know, there is a whole ass 365 days time skip between season 1, fuck you, season 2 and season 3. Subaru's been balling, chillaxing in his room like a baller for an entire year while Guts was busy getting fucked by evil forces, figuratively speaking and literally speaking. And for the people who say Guts can just end his life if he's tired of suffering, mother effin' F-U-C-K-E-R. Have you seen what the afterlife looks like in Berserk? Hell, I never kill myself. I cherish every single moment I have in this horrible world of the living if I live in the Berserk universe. And that point is also true for Subaru, okay? He can't kill himself, but bro could just run away with Rem and he'd have a peaceful life. He's bringing his own suffering upon himself. Anyways, so yet again, I unfortunately never really died, so I'm not really well placed to judge Subaru's suffering, and I usually don't spend my days getting chased around by evil ghosts that tried to fuck me. Well, maybe sometimes on Thursdays, but I keep it occasional, you know? So I can't really judge Guts' mental suffering either, so yet again, I leave it to you professional ghost and professional emo kids to judge for me. So it's time to come to a conclusion. It is time to conclude the conclusionness and take all of the arguments that I said above and conclude them into a beautiful conclusion that will conclude this entire conclusion. And yeah, whatever the fuck. Subaru has the power to save everyone, which Guts doesn't have. Guts physically also suffered just as much as Subaru, if not more, but unlike Subaru, Guts actually has to go through the whole recovery process, which is worse than the injury itself. Guts and Subaru's mental suffering are very different kind of suffering as well, but one is permanent while the other one isn't. Also, death is an atrocious thing to experience and Subaru went through it multiple times. Guts, unlike Subaru, never died, which could lead us to think that Subaru's suffering is greater than Guts. And last but not least, Subaru lives in a world that's full of hope. Even considering all the bad shit that exists, the foundation of his world work in his favor. Bro literally asked RBD, who's one of the most busted ability, and he's BFF with God's chosen warrior, Reinhardt. And even if all of that doesn't work, he can always give up whenever he wants and live a peaceful life with the woman he loves. While Guts, on the other hand, lives in a world where the literal god of his universe, the idea of evil, actively works towards its downfall by creating God's hands, and the very construction of his world will work against him, and even if he wanted to fall into the sweet embrace of death, it would simply be doomed to go to hell for eternity with the other tormented souls. So taking all that into consideration, it is time to answer the question, who suffered the most between Guts or Anime Subaru? And the answer is... fuck you, power scalers, or in this case, pain scalers. Ranking suffering is stupid, because it is not comparable. The pain of losing everyone you love forever and the pain of seeing everyone you love die over and over again are not comparable suffering. Both of those characters suffered a lot in their own ways, and unless you experience their pain firsthand, which you never will, you have no rights to say who suffered the most. I swear I fucking hate pain scalers. I know I said I'd end this evil debate once and for all, but fuck it. This debate is too interesting to be ended. All it truly did was fuel it even more now that I think about it. Maybe I was part of the evil scheme to make people debate about Guts versus Subaru all along. And now after watching this video, you got many more tools to debate with your friends that disagree with you. Show those idiots who's right and potentially ruin your friendship with them, and maybe even beat them up in the process. This video does not promote violence, by the way. Or does it? On a more positive and less aggressive note, what do you, yes, you, I sound like a Piranha commercial, what do you think about this topic? Tell me in the comment section and spread your opinion who's obviously the right one, but before you do this, why don't you give me a like and subscribe to thank me for giving you more tools to win your debate? Thanks, I knew I could count on you. Have fun debating, this is it for me, and I'll be going on a walk now, goodbye.